The origin of the twins continues to be a mystery despite the years of Genshin Impact's existence. The travelers from afar have continuously been shrouded in mystery, but today I want to ask an important question about their arrival to Teyvat, and that is, why and how were the travelers summoned by Khaenri'ah? Disclaimer: I will be using Aether as my traveler and Lumine as my sibling for simplicity in pronouns' sake, but today I want to propose that Khaenri'ah summoned the two interstellar travelers to serve as potential weaponry against Celestia, and to rewrite fate in a way contradicting to the heavenly principles. Before I begin with the arguments themselves, we have to first understand the background as to what we know about Aether and Lumine, and just how anomalous they are in terms of Teyvat's lore. Though Aether has sufficiently acclimated to the world, Albedo pointed out greatly that it is nothing short of a miracle that the world's foundational principles, such as oxygen, energy sources, and other basic means of biological living, isn't counteracting anything within Aether's biology, which makes sense. Imagine if the traveler wound up in a world filled with water, but his body wasn't able to acclimate to basic breathing, to which Aether actually states that that might not be the case, but doesn't elaborate further in telling Albedo about the mysterious god. This question comes from three pieces of dialogue that I found immensely striking when talking about Aether and Lumine. First is the discussion between Nahida and the traveler regarding their origins. Nahida states that according to the Irminsul and Dotore, the creatures that supposedly came from outside of the world and are exempted from the principles of Teyvat and the Seven are known as Descenders. There are 4 Descenders according to the Fatui's research, with Nahida speculating that the heavenly principles are the first. The Traveler is the 4th, the first one known in lore is Phanis, and a second throne came to contest the authority of the first and waged war across the land. However, a 3rd Descender came and disturbed the balance of the world, forcing the first and the second to kill them and create the Gnosis from their remains. Interestingly enough, Nahida and the Fatui don't record the sibling as a descender, with the Irminsul actually having records of Lumine's existence, leading many to speculate that either the Fatui's definition and categorization is false, the sibling's past is a hoax, or that we have too many missing pieces in the current lore to say anything definitive. Because though the Fatui doesn't consider the sibling to be a descender, that description might not be good enough considering Aether and Lumine's memories seem to be intact. Lumine calls Teyvat this world, as well as other stronger lore hints that Lumine is as much of an anomaly as Aether is. Secondly as well, the current lore of Descending expands on the idea that the description Nahida gave us in the Argan quest was incomplete. The Fontanian researcher René contests the idea that the Descenders are only specifically individuals that physically didn't come from this world, but defines that term in his notes. That title belongs only to wills that can rival an entire world. That is what I seek, the way to become just such a will, one that can protect the world, sustain the world, destroy the world, and create the world. This step is vital, for by this may one avoid receiving a vision by some error. To receive a vision is to sell oneself to the fate of this world, to Heimermune, and to evermore lose the chance to walk the correct path. Descenders are therefore creatures that exist outside of the world's foundational principles, and have the power to destroy and create the world. When we understand the contributions of the 3 older Descenders, the first Descender Phanis was responsible for the complete rewriting of the world through the defeat of the 7 sovereigns, while the 3rd Descender's remains were powerful enough to be reconstructed into the Gnosis we know today. And even now, the Traveler is able to exist outside of Teyvat's natural laws and serve as a witness to a lot of major events in the nations. But the real question still remains. Why does a sibling, someone who is also trying to contest the heavenly principles and has intentions of toppling the divine thrones, not be considered someone that has the will and ability to change the world? That is an interesting question that we don't have answers to currently, because the most that we have was that somewhere along the lines of Lumine's journey, a complication happened that sealed her fate to this world. However, we continue with the siblings' history prior to the start of the game and prior to the Cataclysm. Scaramouche drops an important lore piece of information as to why the sibling arrived to Teyvat.
The reason why there are records about your sister in Irminsul. It might have something to do with Khaenri'ah. Apparently, Khaenri'ah was her first destination when she arrived in this world. Plus, she only came to this world because the heavens responded to the summoning. The Jester told me this himself. You can take his word on this. He was a royal mage in Khaenri'ah and lived with your sister for a time.
When asked about what is the summoning, Scaramouche doesn't give a concrete answer, but at least we have a better grasp on just how impactful the initial arrival of Aether and especially Lumine was during the days of Khaenri'ah. So that begs the further question, why was a sibling, and by extension the traveler, summoned, and what did Khaenri'ah have in store for them? Now, it's important to delineate the perspective and scope of this theory. It isn't why Aether and Lumine themselves came to Earth, but rather why Khaenri'ah summoned for them, took them in, and even why the sibling is so renowned to the point of being considered as royalty. The theory is only interested in the perspective of the Khaenri'ahns, not necessarily the traveler's own motivations and agenda for coming to Devat after years of interstellar travel. So with that being said, I believe that the reason Khaenri'ah summoned the travelers is because Khaenri'ah wished for the ability to reweave fate beyond the assistance of Celestia, essentially bringing forth mortal arrogation as they tried to rewrite destiny. It begins with the concept of ancient civilizations and the term mortal arrogation. Time and time again in the lore, we are told that the ancient civilizations that used to exist thousands of years ago fell folly to ambition and pride, to creatures believing that they could transcend beyond the foundational principles and become greater than what they were created for. This is a tale as old as time, even with the first ever civilization of humanity after the creation, because once upon a time, the people of the land could hear revelations from the heavens directly. Then, the envoys of the gods would walk among benighted humanity, and the waters ran dry as thunder first pierced the sky. Their prosperity brought pride and ambition, and the mind to question. So they questioned the heavens' authority, and schemed to enter the garden of gods. And though they had promised to the people divine love, prosperity, and wisdom, the envoys of heaven were angry. For to question eternity was forbidden, for earth to challenge sky, inexpiable. Khaenri'ah, as a nation, also follows this path. It was alluded to by Dainsleif during the Tevat Travail as a land of those who dream the dream. In a perpetual meantime of a sheltered eternity, most are contented to live, and not to dream. Khaenri'ahns are not, though. They are innovators and scholars who dream beyond the limitations set by the world. Though they were hidden in corners where the god's gaze does not fall, they are as resilient and as astute as ever. However, while that is admirable, there is a higher corruption that plagues this want for innovation. Khaenri'ahns wanted to defy fate itself. For whatever motivation, there is a hidden agenda within the kingdom to experiment and create weaponry that utilizes the unknown, or as we know it, forbidden knowledge, or the otherworldly powers. Dainsleif mentions this in the Travail that he wields a power that is beyond this world, and so do other individuals. Rhindaughter, or Gold, for example, is such a person. She was a researcher from Khaenri'ah who specialized in utilizing powers from beyond to create artificial primordial life, which eventually led her to Durin, the Rifthounds, and the many prototypes of Albedo. However, the reason that scholars such as Gold were even able to practice this without repercussions was because the king himself allowed it. According to the notes that are found in Sumerus Desert, we have an account of a previous soldier who was discussing their hesitance regarding the allowance of the 4 pillars of the kingdom to pursue such technological advancement.
I am keenly aware that the 4 pillars of our kingdom have achieved the prosperity they have today precisely thanks to us spying upon secrets from beyond the skies. Thus have our mechanisms been able to throw off the shackles imposed by this world's laws. But that technology, it cannot be said to be perfect. The gods are untrustworthy, and the demons ineffable. If there is one thing that can pry open the corners of this hollow world, then it can only be human will. To this end, if you can petition the king to allow some machinery manufactured according to the old standard to be preserved under your ministry's purview, perhaps it may light a spark under the latent will of countless future generations to devote themselves to exploring technology.
This implies that at some point, Khaenri'ah did attempt to weaponize powers from beyond this world, similar to Dainsleif, Rhindaughter, or even Albedo's considerations regarding the powers and the elements of Khaenri'ah being from beyond the 7. Khaenri'ah, much like their predecessors, attempted to pry for powers that are beyond their control. And perhaps through this method, they were able to summon Aether and Lumine. and I believe that they did this by creating a portal that summoned the Travelers. If you've ever explored Fontaine, you would be aware that there are summoning circles on the ground that are able to manifest the beastly rifts. They are described as some kind of fantastical arcane formation left by someone. It will summon monsters from another world that will try to break the crystals restraining the formation. An interesting fun fact is when I first found these rifts and saw that they had letters, I tried to decipher them as much as I can, despite most of them being obscured by grass and leaf particles. So the most that I got was the following words. The inner circle has Tenet, Opera, and Sator. When put into Google Translate, it reads, "He holds the tailor's works." That could be an implication to the Loom of Fate, which is also a kind of weave work. As for the second circle, this one is the one I was able to actually complete. Thaos means chaos, Pater means father, Nesor means reaper or harvester, Liana means lioness, and Undantin means unwavering. The other circle I have completely given up on because I couldn't get a clear enough screenshot, but the ones that I found were Corax, Mines, Lampha, or Courage, Soldier, and Lamp. I have no idea how to pronounce them, so you're going to have to forgive me. And what these all mean, I have no idea. But they don't seem to be random words, especially with how ominous they sound with Reaper and Harvester. But I can't make sense of them in the current lore whatsoever, so if anyone has any idea what they could possibly be, please feel free to tell me. Nevertheless, I want to theorize that the method Khaenri'ahns summoned the Traveler with were similar to this, and their primary reason was to investigate powers from beyond, and to summon something that was so strong that they could inherently reweave fate. To further understand what the summoning could mean, we can look at the lore explanation of the mechanic of the wishing system. The intertwined fate gives us the most plausible explanation as to why Aether and Lumine were brought to Devat, a fateful stone that connects dreams. Its glimmers can entwine fates and connect dreams, just as how its glimmer links stars into the shapes of a heart's desire. Hence, the sibling responded to the people's wishes for knowledge. Clothar, during the Arcane Quest interlude Khaenri'ahns, opens the statement further by stating that the sibling was a wondrous mystery far beyond their imagination, and that Lumine was meant to bring new strength and hope to Khaenri'ah. And in a way, she did. If what Clothar said is to be believed, he was shocked when Aether in Lumine's body denied the Abyss's power and called it sinister. This gives us a hint that Lumine, as the Princess of Khaenri'ah, was willing to share her own abilities for the people to help them prosper, which, in a way, is not only what would have contributed to the people trusting her even until the very end as the Abyss Princess, but also mirrors Aether's own journey. At the time, Lumine wouldn't have known better about the consequences of her unknowingly giving the people of Khaenri'ah knowledge of powers from beyond this world. And Aether, at the time for reasons unknown, is still asleep, as it was mentioned that he hasn't woken up during Lumine's travels. So in a way, it's very possible that Lumine's own intervention could have been what slowly set off the events that eventually led to the fall of Khaenri'ah. Either humanity became so intrigued with forbidden knowledge that they lost sight of mortal restrictions, or the dangers posed by otherworldly creations became too much to control that it became rampant. Either way, the Cataclysm needs no explanation for the absolute magnitude of destruction, which honestly makes the story of the Abyss Princess even sadder. Imagine trying to assist people who seem eager to understand your power, only for it to be the cause of the deaths of thousands, and the suffering of much more. I want to critique the theories that state that Celestia assisted in the summoning of the Traveler, especially with what we know about alien invasions in Devat. Celestia, or at least the Heavenly Citadel, is actively against the invasion of external creatures from beyond the firmament. There has been multiple instances where creatures who have descended have brought immense disorder to the foundation of Tevat, and the gods have made it clear that they will respond with hostility if you disrupt the balance. This is an excerpt from the Flowers of Paradise Lost, which shows us the lengths that Celestia is willing to cleanse the land from otherworldly entities.
But, in time, invaders descended from beyond the firmament, bringing with them destruction, overturning rivers, spreading plagues. And though the invaders brought war to my former kin, they also brought about illusions that could break through shackles to the land. But the Master of the Heavens, consumed by fear for the rising tide of delusion and breakthroughs, sent down the divine nails to mend the land, laying waste to the mortal realm. Heed my warnings. Seek not the master of the four shades, and inquire not of the mysteries of the sky and the abyss. Otherwise, as shown by the nail of retribution, certain calamity and sorrow shall follow.
But that's it for me today. A question that I find fascinating considering we have yet to truly understand the history of Lumine during her time in Khaenri'ah, despite it being several months since we had an Abyss-related main story quest. Anyway, my name is Aether and thank you for chilling with me. Bye-bye!